This AskReddit user asks, what are you super nerdy about? 3D modeling and coding. Both great things to learn. Me too. Or at least I'm trying to be. I'm okay at coding. It's my job. So I hope I am anyway. But I've had a much harder time picking up 3D modeling. Photography. Astronomy. I love space stuff. I would make a career out of it if I could. What's stopping you? Honestly, nothing but my own self-doubts. I say do it. You'll be surprised what you're capable of achieving. Pokémon. I can't help but talk about it. Whether it be the games or the show. Once someone brings it up to me. Gardening and video games. Alligators. Also BS. Nerdy about BS? I don't see any issue. But nerdy. Does he look up and know everything about M or? You know what? I think I'll stop questioning guys' ways. Harry Potter. My Hero Academia. Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Five Nights at Freddy's. Vines. Animals in general. I could write books in how much I know about these. The American Civil War. And The Legend of Zelda. I don't see the link. It's a link to the past. We were not prepared. Geography. Oh yeah. Name a country then smart guy. Africa. Kind of weird I suppose, but teaching and understanding how people learn. I became such a nerd for it that I made it a career and hobby. World War II history. Nice. I really want to meet more people like you in real life. I've only been getting into the history of the wars in the past year or so and nobody is ever interested to talk about it. Check out Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. His series on WW1, Blueprint for Armageddon, is stunning. I am a huge band nerd. I'll continue to be in concert bands for as long as humanly possible. I also love airplanes. Specifically jumbo planes like the A380. Too bad the A380 and the 747s are dying out. I'm excited for the 777 9X and 8X. And one of my best memories is the one time I flew on a Dreamliner. I saw in the Air and Space magazine a few months back that the US was considering allowing commercial supersonic travel again. Apparently scientists have figured out how to break the sound barrier without the sonic boom. Quantum physics. A lot of FG random TV shows and Life is Strange. I need to know. The Town or Chloe? Was gonna ask the same thing. Chloe for me. Ancestry and genealogy. My husband is an amateur genealogist. He is Hungarian and reads hundreds of pages of beautiful and not so good calligraphic writing in a sitting. I am astonished at the things he finds in archives. Is this a general thing or just your own? Basketball. I'm only 14 years old but I know the NBA's history way back in the 60s. Video games in general. Specifically retro gaming and gaming history. Anime. Harry Potter. My Chemical Romance. And Panic! At the Disco. And what interests you when you're not at the disco? You got me there. Books by Rick Riordan and TV shows by Dan Schneider. I don't know you. But I love you already. I'm a big fan of Percy Jackson series. Magnus Chase. Trials of Apollo and the Kane Chronicles. I read about 20 of those books in 6 months. I love how they are all intertwined and in one big universe. Quick question. What are all the books in order? I know that Percy Jackson is first. Followed by Heroes of Olympus. But I don't know what is after that. Same dude. I can't wait until September for Book 5 of the Trials of Apollo. The Dark Souls lore is really deep and fantastic if you look into it. There is a lot of videos out there and I highly recommend you take a look. Horror. The Middle Ages. Love me some castles and knights. What's a random fact that you'd like to share? I loved the whole medieval thing when I was younger. Not op. But one I love is that the armor knights wore during combat and contest sports, like jousting, was actually not as cumbersome as it is portrayed in modern media. They were able to move lethally fast in most types of the armor, especially French and Italian designs. The sword strikes they would use often involved going for gouging through gaps in the armor, like through the visor. Gruesome business. It's also far less exhausting to wear for prolonged battles than people think. Modern equipment weighs nearly as much but isn't nearly as well distributed, so it's probably equally exhausting to wear. 15 years of World of Warcraft and still counting. Specifically the gold farming part. I really envy people who have the stamina for gold farming. It's just not something I myself have. Useless knowledge of fictional characters from consuming so many kid chapter books growing up. Violet Alden of the Boxcar Children loved drawing and wore a lot of pigtails, according to whoever illustrated the books. Red-tailed hawks sound like tseeew, according to Animorphs. And I actually looked up the sound as an adult and it is accurate. And the worst is, for some reason, maybe because there were 100+ books and they really hammer in these character descriptions in every FG book. I know the Babysitter's Club the best. Mallory Pike has 7 FG siblings and for some reason doesn't have a middle name. And yet they give Stacy the name of Anastasia Elizabeth McGill like an English debutante. I also hold useless knowledge of Harry Potter and his dark materials. But that makes me happier than knowing Shannon Kilburn's family liked purebred Bernese Mountain Dogs and her face was interesting, which is slightly insulting if you ask me. Computers, I suppose. From hardware to coding, from gaming to networking, and in general just being a power user. Configuring my PC in the exact way I want. Microsoft Excel. My husband started calling me at work for Excel tips and it took me by surprise how much it turns me on. NSFW. That is so hot. Can you even post that here? Evolution. And Great Apes. Jiu-Jitsu. Os. Learning how to cook amazing plant-based food while listening to audiobooks has kept me sane this year. I might be obsessed. Weather. Don't ask why. Because it's beautiful, fascinating, and powerful. The Witcher. Music. I know every tiny detail about nearly every song, band or genre from the second half of the 20th century. But I still can't retain anything useful. Movies. I try to watch at least 3 movies every week that I've never seen before. Edit. Because people have been asking. I don't have a favorite movie per se because I find that it can change depending on the mood of genre I feel like watching at any moment, but I'll list movies from each genre I liked most while naming films that are more popular along with films I don't feel like that many people have seen. Action. Hot Fuzz. Logan. John Wick. Notable. Equilibrium. Chronicles of Riddick. Mayhem Adventure. Chef. The Hunt for the Wilderpeople. Forrest Gump. Notable. Moonrise Kingdom animated. The Iron Giant. Into the Spider-Verse. Notable. A Scanner. Darkly Coming of Age. Short Term 12. The Edge of 17. The Fundamentals of Caring. Notable. The Art of Getting By. The Way Back Comedy. 40-Year-Old Virgin. Jojo Rabbit. Shaun of the Dead. Notable. What We Do in the Shadows. Office Space. Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. Drama. Parasite. Up in the Air. Good Will Hunting. Notable. Leave No Trace. Me. Earl and the Dying Girl. Horror. 28 Weeks Later. Cabin in the Woods. Us. Notable. The Autopsy of Jane Doe. Pitch Black Romance. The Big Sick. 10 Things I Hate About You. Love Actually. Notable. Before We Go. Sci-Fi. The Martian. Interstellar. Blade Runner. The Fifth Element. The Edge of Tomorrow. Notable. Moon. Sunshine. Attack the Block. Sports. Moneyball. Goon. Notable. Eddie the Eagle. Any recommendations? I would recommend Your Name. I don't like anime, but this movie was perfect in every way. From the art, story, soundtrack, even the title, edit. See, everyone has said to also watch A Silent Voice, and I have definitely enjoyed it, but it didn't have the climax of Your Name. Such a beautiful movie. Goosebumps. History. I'm addicted to weird facts about history that sound made up but aren't. Please regale us with a few of your favorites. The use of forks was considered sacrilegious in Italy in the 11th century. John Tyler, 10th President of USA, still has living grandsons even though he was born in 1790. 80s horror movies. Nature, insects, birds, and mountains more specifically. The rise of alternative and grunge music in the late 80s and early 90s. One of the best eras in music. Along with psychedelic rock and proto-metal of the late 60s, early 70s. It was an awesome time period to be in clubs and watching this emergence for sure. Physics. Star Wars. Warhammer 40K. As a D&D guy who pokes around the fringes of Warhammer for curiosity and occasional inspiration. You are superbly intimidating and you all have my respect. Can't believe how far I had to scroll to find 40K. Couldn't find anyone either. So I wrote the comment XD. Metal music and Nintendo. You and I would probably be friends IRL. Law you the same then, mate? Yes. I've been known to Zelda and Gojira. Haha. I'm not an expert but I love tanks. Just waiting for Pixar to pick up that franchise. Mathematics. I've always really enjoyed it. And could easily go on for hours about its history and different applications. I also recreationally study combinatorics with a really nice professor I met last year. And we emailed back and forth, occasionally adding our findings to the OEIS. I was talking special interests with my 8-year-old. And I suggested math might be one. He made a disagreeable face. But a minute later was explaining to me what Graham's number is. Sure kid. Whatever. Your kid sounds amazing, haha. I definitely recommend showing him some YouTube channels like 3 Blue 1 Brown or Numberphile once you think he's reached the point to be able to watch them. I know Numberphile has an entire video on Graham's number. Love your username. But I'm gonna need an ID proof. Preferably one that can fit in the margins and never be found again. Pokémon. The Legend of Zelda. The Elder Scrolls. Halo. Jurassic Park. The Lord of the Rings. Avatar. The Last Airbender. Age of Empires. History. Biology. The Beatles. Pink Floyd. Electric Light Orchestra. A Song of Ice and Fire. Geez, leave some for the rest of us. Nice list by the way. Nintendo. Specifically the Legend of Zelda series. They're with you. My guy. SPAAAAACE. Nah man, space is too much for my brain. Not me. Half my brain is empty space. Space is amazing. It's so vast and we don't even know half of what's out there. There's so much more to discover, which is hella exciting. Music theory. A question and a story. Q. Ever hear pop music and find yourself knowing exactly where the songwriter made a quote? Or a particular hook where there is a "they didn't just do that"? Did they? Yes. Yes they did. Quote. The Flat IV and Beyoncé's All the Single Ladies. Gets me every time. Story. As was told to me. The band Chicago got the progressions for some of their early hits by copying out of their music theory textbooks and giving them different rhythms. But much of the sound was they were copying classical texts. It's been years since I studied MT properly. The few times it clicked. It was fascinating. That you know this and heard it straight away is impressive. Thanks. It's more accurate to say I heard there was something going on straight away. Then had to have one of my more knowledgeable music theory friends tell me what I was hearing. I was never the best oral skills or music theory student. But even some basics can be taught relatively quickly, especially with a good teacher, and then you start hearing and seeing patterns all over the place. It's sorta like watching any professional sport. If you're passively around it enough with people who know what they're talking about, you start to appreciate it differently and notice patterns. I knew nothing about soccer. Then watched the World Cup with a guy who had played since he could walk. He was generous with answering my dumb questions. Now I enjoy watching it. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos.